Japan is the country filled with countless legends. Perhaps it's because, for a long time, this island nation was never invaded from abroad and was able to preserve its culture. Or perhaps it's because Japan's beautiful four seasons and natural environment shaped a uniquely delicate sensibility in its people. Or maybe there is something in this land that has been passed down since ancient times. In Japan, there have been many remarkable spiritual practitioners. And yet, because of Japan's distinct culture and the barrier of language, many of these biographies and stories remain largely unknown outside the country. Today, from among Japan's many tales of spiritual figures, I want to introduce the legend of Matsuzo Matsushita. The stories may sound unbelievable, but they are said to be based on numerous documents and accounts, and within them lies a surprisingly deep kind of wisdom. I hope you'll watch this series all the way through part 3. The man they called a god. Matsuzo Matsushita was born on March 10, 1873, in Haraka Village, Tamana District, Kumamoto Prefecture, present-day Nagasu town, as the eldest son of the Matsushita family. The Matsushita household made its living as farmers. From a young age, Matsuzo helped with farm work, and during the agricultural off-season, he's said to have carried salt made at home and traveled nearly 100 kilometers as a peddler. Because of that life, he grew up with virtually no formal education. He could not read or write, and could barely write his own name. And yet, despite having no schooling, Matsuzo had a strong interest in Shintoism and religion from childhood, often listening to sermons at temples and repeatedly visiting shrines to hear the words of priests. More than that, Matsuzo was known for the extraordinary devotion he showed toward his parents, so much so that people around him were astonished by it. Later, Matsuzo spoke about this in the following terms: loyalty to the emperor, filial piety toward one's parents, reverence for one's ancestors, and sincere devotion to the gods. The practice of these four principles, Shidaido, or the four great ways, is true human discipline and what the gods most desire from us. What I should add here is that when he says the emperor, he is referring to the Japanese emperor Tenno. In Shinto tradition, Tenno is often described as a descendant of the highest deity. In other words, Tenno functions as a symbol of Japan's culture, identity, and spiritual landscape. So when Matsuzo speaks of reverence toward the emperor, he does not mean worshiping political power or submitting to a ruler. Rather, he means honoring the emperor as a sacred figure, and, at the same time, honoring the culture and the land of Japan that the emperor represents. Anyway, by pursuing these four great ways, Matsuzo seemed to understand that one-sided faith alone was meaningless, and that truly righteous conduct lay in something deeper. And so, his days followed a simple rhythm. He worked in the fields during the day, and when the work was done, he prayed before the gods. Even this alone tells us how deeply devoted he was. But in 1919, at the age of 47, something happened that would change his life forever. The awakening of spiritual power. One night, as he was praying to the gods as usual, Matsuzo suddenly began vomiting an enormous amount of blood. Describing that moment later, Matsuzo said it was as if he were breathing out smoke, and that blood kept pouring out for about 10 minutes, in an amount he believed to be nearly one sho. One sho is roughly 1.8 liters, so you can imagine how extreme this was. Matsuzo believed he was going to die, but later he found out that this was a kind of ritual, an initiation required to become a true servant of divine work, purging bad blood that remained in his body. And from that moment on, Matsuzo became endowed with the power of the gods, and that this was the beginning of his legend as a man of extraordinary abilities. As an aside, many spiritual practitioners are said to awaken their abilities after coming face to face with death. Matsuzo, too, seems to have followed that path. So from here, let's look at what kind of powers Matsuzo was said to possess, and what he actually did. Matsuzo's spiritual abilities. Many testimonies about Matsuzo's powers still remain today. In documents, books, magazines, and even academic writings. Among the many accounts, the one often regarded as especially credible is the testimony of Dr. Nobuo Shioya, a man who came closer to Matsuzo than most. Shioya was a medical doctor who graduated from the Faculty of Medicine at Tokyo University, formerly the Imperial University of Tokyo. Later, he served as an associate professor at Keijo Imperial University in Korea, and eventually ran an internal medicine clinic in Tokyo. He was also known as the founder of a breathing method called Seishin Chosoku Ho, or the method of regulating mind and breath. This breathing method combines nasal breathing with diaphragmatic breathing and is said to help reduce stress and improve the body's condition by increasing oxygen intake. In fact, the former Japanese professional tennis player Ai Sugiyama is known to have adopted this method. Shioya first learned about Matsuzo in 1931. At the time, Shioya was also exploring approaches that combined Western medicine with spiritual healing. One day, a reporter from a women's magazine called Fujin Club came to interview him about these methods and told him a strange story. In a rural area of Kumamoto, the reporter said, there was an elderly man with astonishing spiritual power. Local people revered him as a living god, and even patients from Tokyo were coming to be healed by him. After hearing this, Shioya met someone who claimed to have been healed by Matsuzo and listened to their story. What he heard was so unbelievable that, as a physician, he could not accept it. So Shioya decided to travel to Kumamoto himself. When he arrived, the first thing that shocked him was this. The bus heading toward Nagasu, the area where Matsuzo lived, had a destination sign that read, "Bound for God." It was already an extraordinary situation. But Shioya boarded the bus. When he reached Matsuzo's home, he witnessed another astonishing scene. It was an ordinary rural farmhouse, yet it was already packed with patients. Shioya waited together with the others. Then, an elderly man with white hair, wrapped in a white robe, came down from the second floor and sat before the Shinto household shrine, Kamidana. That man was Matsuzo Matsushita. Shioya then observed the healing practice Matsuzo performed, known as otakazu, literally handwork. And Shioya later said he found it so bizarre that he could not understand it. The treatment involved almost no questioning. Matsuzo would simply look at a patient and say one word, "Yoka," which means good. He never touched the patient. And yet, with just that single word, the patient's condition would change, again and again, illness after illness. Shioya was stunned, but he also wanted to understand more. He asked Matsuzo for permission to stay and began studying this form of spiritual healing while living there. From that point on, the process became more structured. First, Shioya would examine the patient in advance. Then Matsuzo would see the patient afterward. Crucially, Shioya would not tell Matsuzo his diagnosis, so that he could test what Matsuzo would perceive and how he would treat. Shioya described the experience like this. He understood every illness I found through questioning. Not only that, he noticed illnesses I had missed, and he even perceived things that could not be seen through ordinary examination alone. For example, there was a patient suffering from pleurisy, fluid accumulating in the lungs. Matsuzo said to Shioya, "This person has fluid in the pleura on the right side. Do you know how much?" Shioya replied that he did not know the volume. Matsuzo then answered, 3 go and 2 shaku, which would be about 576 milliliters today. Matsuzo said he would remove the fluid. He moved his head up and down a few times, placed his hand on the affected area, and said only one word, "Yoka." Afterward, Shioya listened with a stethoscope, and the fluid was truly gone. In another case, Matsuzo said, "This person has a fever of 38.2 degrees," and the patient's measured temperature matched. Shioya witnessed one shocking scene after another. Patients who arrived on crutches no longer needed them when they left. Patients who could not walk on their own walked out by themselves. These are phenomena that are extremely difficult to explain scientifically, but they were preserved in Shioya's written records, as well as letters and testimonies from other patients. Clairvoyance. And Matsuzo's abilities were not limited to healing. He was also said to possess a kind of clairvoyance, something like senrigan, the ability to see beyond normal perception even if 1,000 miles away. According to a reporter from a magazine called Shufu no Tomo, founded in 1917, who actually received treatment, Matsuzo not only identified a chronic illness the reporter had suffered for around 10 years, but also accurately described illnesses affecting the reporter's 2 children. At that time, Matsuzo told the reporter, "Whether it is right before my eyes or 1,000 miles away, I can heal it the same." It is also said that he could perform something described as soul swapping, exchanging the personality and memory of 2 individuals. And according to the same Shufu no Tomo reporter, Matsuzo could even heal physical injuries such as broken bones. In 1928, the mayor of a village in Kamimashiki district, Kumamoto Prefecture, broke his ribs. A doctor diagnosed that surgery was the only option, but the mayor feared surgery and turned to Matsuzo instead. Matsuzo said, "Very well, I'll take out a bone from the household shrine and replace it." 3 minutes later, he told the mayor it was already healed. The mayor, still skeptical, pressed his hand to the injured area, and to his shock, there was no pain. He smiled and said he felt better, then left. The reporter who witnessed this asked Matsuzo, "How can replacing bones be that easy?" Matsuzo laughed, pointed to the shrine, and replied, "Inside there are plenty of spare parts. Bones, tendons, anything you need. This is a repair shop for human beings." A legend. Too large to ignore. These stories of Matsuzo Matsushita are, to most people, almost impossible to believe. And yet, his extraordinary deeds were said to be recorded and examined not only by Dr. Shioya and the Shufu no Tomo reporter, but also through accounts involving Dr. Kohei Ando, a professor of engineering at Osaka University, Professor Emeritus Nobutaka Inoue of Kokugakuin University, and reporting by journalists such as those from the Kyushu Mainichi newspaper. In addition, many books and primary materials, such as letters and postcards from patients, said to number in the tens of thousands, are also cited as records. If anything, it may feel even stranger that a spiritual figure who became such a social phenomenon is now almost unknown to the general public. Now, by this point, you may feel you understand Matsuzo's abilities well, but Matsuzo himself framed it differently. He said, I do not have the power to heal illness. The gods heal. I merely serve as the intermediary." And he accepted no payment at all for his healing. From the next video onward, we will explore Matsuzo Matsushita's beliefs and actions, his view of illness, and the deeper philosophy behind everything he did.